On Tuesday morning, my daughter-in-law stopped by and then hurried away, leaving her phone on the kitchen table. I picked it up to put it away, and it started ringing. The screen displayed a picture of my husband, who had passed away 4 years earlier. Below the picture was a recently received message, "Tonight, at our usual place. Can't wait any longer." Who would text my daughter-in-law a picture of my husband, and why was his picture on her phone? My hands trembled as I realized there was something I didn't know about my family, and that could change everything. I'm really grateful you're here with me. Before we go on, let me know in the comments, where are you listening from? I always enjoy connecting with you across different cities and countries. Also, please keep in mind that parts of this story are dramatized for narrative impact. Any resemblance to real names or settings is unintentional, but the lesson it carries is meaningful. The silver SUV disappeared down the gravel drive, dust trailing behind it like a question mark. I stood at the kitchen window, dish towel in hand, watching Rachel's car until it vanished beyond the fence line. Tuesday mornings had become our routine over the past 4 years, her weekly visit my weekly company. She'd bring groceries I didn't need and conversation I sometimes did. The Montana morning stretched quiet around me. 47 years in this house and I still wasn't used to the silence. Not the kind that comes with empty rooms, but the kind that settles after someone is gone for good. Harold used to fill the space with his presence, even when he wasn't talking. The creak of his boots on the porch, the rustle of the newspaper, the low hum he'd make while thinking. 4 years since I lost him. Some days it felt like yesterday, others like a lifetime. I turned back to the sink where 2 coffee mugs sat waiting. Another old habit I couldn't break. I'd poured 2 cups this morning, same as always, before remembering. Rachel had drunk from one. The other sat untouched, cooling on the counter. The buzz came as I was elbow deep in soapy water. At first I thought it was a bee. We got them sometimes this time of year, confused insects seeking warmth before the cold arrived. But the sound came again, mechanical, insistent. Not a bee. A phone. I dried my hands on my apron and turned. There on the kitchen counter next to the bread box sat Rachel's phone. She must have set it down when she was helping me put away the groceries. Easy to forget when you're juggling bags and conversation. The phone buzzed again, vibrating against the old oak countertop. I should call her, I thought. Let her know she'd left it. She was probably halfway home by now, wondering where it was. I reached for my own phone, but stopped. The screen had lit up with the incoming message, and there, smiling up at me from that glowing rectangle, was my husband's face. My hand froze in midair. The dish towel slipped from my fingers to the floor. Harold. Not an old photo either, not one of the pictures that hung on our walls or sat framed on the mantel. This was different. He was wearing a purple shirt I'd never seen, standing somewhere I didn't recognize. The smile on his face was broader than I remembered it being those final, difficult years. But Harold was gone. Had been for 4 years. I'd buried him in the cemetery on the hill beneath the cottonwood tree he'd always loved. So why was his face on my daughter-in-law's phone? My heart hammered against my ribs as I stepped closer. The message preview was visible beneath his photo, just a few words that made no sense at all. Tonight, same place, can't wait. The timestamp glowed in the corner. Today, 9:07 in the morning. 20 minutes ago, while Rachel had still been here, sitting at my kitchen table, smiling and sipping coffee, like this was just another ordinary Tuesday. I stared at that screen until my eyes burned. Someone had sent this message today, this morning. Someone was using my husband's picture to communicate with my daughter-in-law. Someone who was planning to see her tonight at some place they both knew. The phone went dark, the screen fading to black, but the image had already burned itself into my mind. Harold's face, that purple shirt, that smile. My hand trembled as I reached for the phone. Every instinct I'd been raised with screamed that this was wrong. You don't look through other people's phones. You respect privacy. You trust family. But that face, that message. I picked up the phone, its weight somehow heavier than it should be. The screen lit up again at my touch, and there he was, Harold, smiling at me like he had a secret. Maybe he did. My fingers hovered over the screen. I knew Rachel's passcode. I'd watched her enter it dozens of times when she showed me photos of my grandson. 4 simple numbers, 0813, Ethan's birthday. I shouldn't look. I knew I shouldn't. But that message, tonight, same place, can't wait. 4 years he'd been gone, and somehow, impossibly, he was here on this phone, smiling and making plans. I entered the code. The phone unlocked with a soft click, and my old life clicked shut behind me. The screen glowed in my hands, bright against the shadowed kitchen. My fingers hesitated over glass and secrets. I knew this was wrong. You don't read other people's messages. You don't violate trust. My mother had raised me with clear rules about privacy and respect. But Harold's face stared up at me from that phone, and every principle I'd lived by suddenly felt very far away. The home screen showed apps I recognized. A background photo of my grandson, Ethan, at his 8th grade graduation last spring, cap and gown, and that smile that reminded me so much of Harold. Rachel kept her phone organized just like she kept her life, everything in its place. I tapped the messaging app. My hand shook slightly, and I told myself it was just the coffee. Just the morning chill that still lingered even with the September sun climbing higher. The screen filled with conversation threads. Michael, my son, at the top. Their last exchange about picking up Ethan from school. Below that, her sister, her book club, her dentist. All normal. Then I saw it. A single letter, just H. No name, no context. Just that one letter like a secret too dangerous to speak aloud. The preview beneath it showed only empty space. Either the last message was a photo or someone had been very careful. I tapped the thread and my world tilted. Messages bloomed across the screen, and my kitchen suddenly felt smaller, colder. The morning light seemed dimmer somehow, like clouds had passed over the sun. The most recent was from 3 days ago, Sunday evening. While I'd been watching television in this very house while Michael had been home with Rachel and Ethan, someone had written to my daughter-in-law, "Missing you already. Tuesday can't come fast enough. Tuesday, this morning, the day Rachel always visited me." My breath came shallow as I scrolled upward. I told myself I'd only look at recent messages, just enough to understand what this was. 2 weeks back. "Your husband asked about my schedule. I told him I was traveling for work. We're safe." Your husband. That would be Michael, my son, her husband. Someone was telling Rachel they were safe from my son's questions. The messages climbed backward through September into late August. Short, careful. Nothing explicit, but the intimacy was unmistakable. The kind of language that exists between two people who share something the world isn't supposed to see. "Thinking about you. Can't wait to hold you again. You make everything feel possible." I should have stopped reading. Should have put the phone down, called Rachel, demanded an explanation. But my fingers kept scrolling like they belonged to someone else. 2 months back, early August. "Last night was everything. You make me feel alive again." Last night. I tried to remember early August. Had Rachel been absent? Had there been evening plans I didn't know about? But 2 months ago felt like a lifetime now. There was a photo attached. I tapped it before I could stop myself. A man. Not Harold, at least not the Harold I'd known. Younger somehow. A baseball cap pulled low. Sunglasses. Standing in front of what looked like a cabin, trees thick behind him. He was smiling at whoever held the camera. The location tag said simply, Montana. Helpful and useless at the same time. I closed the photo, my mind spinning. Who was this? Why did he have Harold's picture as his contact photo? Was this some sick joke? But Rachel wasn't the type to fall for scams. Rachel, who balanced checkbooks and read consumer reports before buying a toaster. I scrolled further back, 3 months now into early July. Plans made, meetings arranged, a whole relationship unfolding in fragments of text. Same place as always? Yes, she never suspects. She, someone female who didn't suspect. Was that me? Was I the unsuspecting she in this equation? Then I found it. The message that turned my confusion into something colder, something that tasted like metal, dated 3 months back, tucked between plans for coffee and discussions about discretion. "I know what Michael did to you. I have evidence. We need to be careful." Michael, my son's name stark and sudden among the romance and secrecy. The phone nearly slipped from my hands. I caught it, pressed it against my chest, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. What had Michael done? To whom and why was this stranger, this person using? The sound of tires on gravel sent ice through my veins. I looked up from the phone, heart suddenly loud. Through the kitchen window, dust rising from the driveway, silver paint glinting. Rachel was coming back. My hands moved before thought caught up. I locked the screen, cutting off that message about Michael. The device felt hot. Hide it. The apron around my waist had deep pockets. I shoved the phone into the right one, felt it settle against my hip. The SUV pulled up as I grabbed the dish towel. My hands shook, so I gripped tighter. Act normal. Footsteps, a knock quick and urgent. I opened the door. Rachel stood there looking worried. Her hair had a strand out of place. Her lipstick was chewed at the corner. "Maggie, I'm so sorry. I think I left my phone here. Have you seen it?" The lie came easier than expected. "Your phone number, dear, but let's look together." Rachel moved into the kitchen, eyes scanning counters. "I had it when I was putting away groceries." I followed the phone in my pocket, feeling heavier with each step. We stood 3 feet apart, and she had no idea. "Let's check by the bread box." We peered behind the wooden box together. The phone chose that moment to vibrate. The buzz was quiet, muffled, but in the silent kitchen it sounded like a chainsaw. I coughed, loud and sudden. "Sorry, something in my throat." Rachel straightened. "Are you all right?" "Just allergies this time of year." We searched together, her frantic me performing helpfulness, under newspapers, behind the coffee maker, in the dish rack. After 10 minutes, Rachel gave up. "This is so unlike me. Maybe in your car you had your hands full." "Maybe." She didn't sound convinced. At the door she turned. "You seem different today. Everything all right?" "Different how?" "Distracted maybe. Just missing your father-in-law. Some days are harder." Her expression softened. "I know. I miss him too." The lie sat between us. She left, promising to check her car. I watched through the window as she slid into the driver's seat, pulled her other phone from the console, and made a call. Even from here, I could see her lips moving fast. Her hand gestured sharply. Whatever she was saying wasn't casual. The phone in my pocket vibrated again. I pulled it out. Another message from H. "Did you lose your phone? Be more careful. We can't afford mistakes." My hands went cold. Whoever H was, they knew. They knew the phone was missing, which meant they were monitoring the situation. Someone was worried. "We can't afford mistakes." What mistakes? What were they hiding that one missing phone could ruin? I looked back at the window. Rachel's SUV was still there, and I could see her on that call. Shoulders hunched forward, one hand pressed against her forehead. She looked stressed, scared even. I scrolled up in the thread, looking at messages I'd read before the interruption. The romantic words, the careful planning, the mentions of Michael and evidence. My son was involved in something bad enough that strangers were collecting evidence, something that made people nervous when phones went missing. What had Michael done? And why was my daughter-in-law in the middle of it? I watched Rachel finally end her call. She sat there for a long moment, staring at nothing. Then she started the engine and backed out, dust trailing behind like smoke. I stood at that window until her car disappeared, the phone warm in my hands. Somewhere out there, someone named H was using my dead husband's picture. Someone was watching my family. Someone knew things about Michael that I didn't. And now they knew I had Rachel's phone. The device buzzed one more time. I didn't want to look, but I had to. "Return it soon, before questions get asked." A warning or a threat, maybe both. I had decisions to make and not much time to make them. The silver SUV disappeared beyond the fence line, dust settling like a curtain closing. I stood at the kitchen window and counted to 30. When no headlights returned, I moved. Harold's office sat at the end of the hallway door, closed for 4 years. My knees protested the quick walk. Inside, everything waited exactly as he'd left it. Files stacked on the desk, reading glasses folded on a yellow legal pad, the smell of old leather and pipe tobacco still faint in the air. I didn't have time for memories. The computer sat under the window monitor, dark. I pressed the power button and waited through the slow boot up, watching the Montana morning brighten outside. Harold never threw anything away, including this ancient desktop. That would save me now. The phone felt heavy in my hand. I needed to copy everything before Rachel realized what I'd done. During the early days of illness restrictions, Ethan had taught me to back up his phone when the screen cracked. "Just plug it in, Grandma. The computer does the rest." I hoped he was right. A USB cable lay in the desk drawer, tangled with rubber bands and paper clips. I connected Rachel's phone to the tower. The screen lit up. Trust this computer, I tapped yes, holding my breath. The backup window appeared, estimated time 28 minutes. I sat in Harold's chair, springs creaking under my weight. On the desk, a photo smiled at me, our 40th anniversary, Harold's arm around my shoulders, both of us younger and believing we had decades left. I turned it face down. The progress bar crept forward. 5%. 7. Outside, a hawk circled over the south pasture. I watched it hunt, wondering what I was becoming. A woman who lies to family. A woman who steals phones and copies private messages. A woman who doesn't trust her own son. But that message had mentioned Michael. I know what Michael did to you. 15%. My hands found the desk drawer again, pulling out a small USB drive Harold had used for tax records. I'd need 2 copies. One on the computer, one I could hide. The computer could be erased, but a thumb drive small enough to vanish, that was insurance. 22%. The phone buzzed. I jumped, nearly dropping it. Another message from H. Everything okay? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. If I answered, would they know it wasn't Rachel? If I didn't, would they get suspicious? I set the phone down and did nothing. Sometimes silence was safer. 34%. I stood and walked to the bookshelf. Harold's law books lined the middle shelf, heavy volumes he'd kept from his brief time in school before choosing ranch life instead. Montana Civil Procedure 3rd edition. I pulled it out. The pages were hollow. Harold had carved a space years ago for emergency cash. The $20 bills were long gone, but the hiding spot remained. Perfect. 51%. The morning stretched long. I thought about making coffee, but leaving the office felt dangerous. What if the backup failed? What if Rachel came back early? At 78%, I heard an engine. My heart stopped. I ran to the window. Just the mail truck continuing down the road. 93%. When it finally finished, I copied everything to the USB drive messages. Photos, call logs, everything. 6 minutes for the transfer. Then I unplugged the phone, ejected the drive, and slid it into the hollow book. The volume went back on the shelf, indistinguishable from its neighbors. I opened the computer's browser history and deleted my tracks. Shut down the machine. Wiped the desk with my sleeve where I'd touched it. In the kitchen, I placed Rachel's phone on the counter behind the bread box, exactly where she might have left it. My own phone was in my pocket. I texted her, "Found your phone must have fallen behind bread box." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Omi, be there in 10. I looked at the phone sitting there innocent on the counter. Evidence of something. Evidence I now had locked away in a dead man's law book. Whatever Rachel was hiding, whatever Michael had done, I'd know soon enough. Tonight, after everyone left, I'd read it all. Every word, every photo, every lie. But first, I had to get through the next 10 minutes without her seeing the truth on my face. I placed the phone on the counter behind the bread box, exactly where I'd claimed to find it. My hands were steady now. Strange how lying gets easier with practice. Headlights swept through the kitchen window. 10 minutes, just like she'd said. The SUV door slammed. Footsteps quick on the porch. Rachel pushed through the door without knocking. Her eyes went straight to the phone. Not to me, not a greeting, just the phone. She crossed the kitchen and grabbed it. Her whole body changed when her fingers closed around it, shoulders dropping, breath releasing. Relief. But underneath that, something else flickered across her face. Fear, maybe. Her thumb moved across the screen before she'd even looked up. Where was it? Right there, behind the bread box. I kept my tone easy. Must have slid back when you were putting groceries away. She wasn't listening. Her thumb scrolled fast eyes, tracking something I couldn't see. Checking messages, checking timestamps, checking if anyone had opened it. I moved to the coffee pot. Want a cup I just made fresh. Oh, I shouldn't. I have errands. Just 1 cup. Feels like we haven't talked in ages. I poured 2 mugs without waiting. Set one at the table. Sit with me a minute. She hesitated, phone still in her hand, then lowered herself into the chair. But the phone stayed visible on the table, screen side down. Her fingers drummed next to it. I sat across from her. How's Michael? I haven't seen him in weeks. Something flickered across her face again, fast like a bird's shadow. He's good. Busy with work. He's always been such a hard worker. Takes after his father that way. Her jaw tightened. Just a fraction. Yes. And you too, everything's good? Of course. Too quick, too bright. Why wouldn't it be? No reason. You just seem stressed lately, forgetting your phone, rushing around. If something's wrong, you can talk to me. She stood coffee untouched. I appreciate that, Maggie. Really. But everything's fine. I have to meet someone. I'm already late. The phone went into her pocket. She was at the door before I could say more. Rachel. She turned. I'm glad we had this time. Her expression softened. For a moment, she looked like the young woman who'd married my son 15 years ago. Me too. Then she was gone. I watched through the window as she backed out faster than necessary. She pulled her phone from her pocket before she'd even reached the road, calling someone, telling them that the phone had been found. The dust settled. The house went quiet. I stood there as the sun tracked across the kitchen floor, as shadows grew long as afternoon bled into evening. By 8 o'clock, darkness pressed against the windows. I locked the doors, drew the curtains, made chamomile tea I didn't drink. Harold's office waited at the end of the hall. The computer woke with a hum. The backup file sat on the desktop where I'd left it. My cursor hovered over it. Once I opened this, I couldn't unknow what I'd find. 4 years of secrets would change everything. I thought about Harold, about trust, about Michael as a boy, earnest and loving, Michael as a man, distant and busy, Michael in those messages. I know what Michael did. The cursor clicked. The file opened. Thousands of messages stretched back day after day, month after month. The thread labeled H began 4 years ago, October, a month before Harold passed away. I scrolled to the very beginning, the first message, the one that started it all. The screen glowed in the dark office. Outside, Montana nights settled cold. Inside, I began to read, and the truth was waiting. I sat in Harold's office until the sun set, until the only light came from the computer screen, casting shadows across walls lined with law books and 30 years of ranch records. The backup file was massive. Thousands of messages spanning 4 years. I started at the beginning. The very first message in the thread labeled H. 4 years ago, October. Harold, thank you for listening today. I needed that. H replied, anytime. You're easy to talk to. Simple. Innocent. The kind of message you'd send a friend. The next day, Harold, Maggie and I barely speak anymore. I feel invisible in my own home. That must be lonely. Harold, it is, but talking to you helps. My throat tightened. I'd had no idea. We'd been married 47 years. When had we stopped talking? The messages became daily, then multiple times per day. Harold opened up about everything. Fear of aging, fear of becoming irrelevant, the ranch running itself without him, Michael taking over the finances, me absorbed in my book club and volunteer work. I'm disappearing, he wrote. And no one notices. After 2 months, the messages shifted. More personal, affectionate. Harold, I think about you all the time. H, I think about you too. Harold, is that wrong? H, I don't know, but it feels right. I forced myself to keep reading, to see the full picture. After 3 months, they exchanged photos. Harold at a cafe I didn't recognize. Smiling, relaxed, looking 10 years younger. After 4 months, they made plans. Harold, Tuesday morning, the usual place. Maggie has book club. I didn't have book club on Tuesdays. I had it on Wednesdays. He'd lied to me, snuck away to meet someone while I thought he was running errands. After 6 months, the messages became unmistakable. Harold, I can't stop thinking about yesterday. Which neither can I. Harold, I know this is wrong, but I've never felt this alive. I wanted to stop reading, close the file, pretend I'd never seen it, but I had to know, had to understand what had destroyed my marriage. After 8 months, the tone shifted again. Harold, Michael came by today, asked why I've been acting strange. Each, what did you tell him? Harold, nothing, but he's suspicious. Maybe we should stop. Harold, I can't. You're the only good thing in my life right now. After 9 months, Harold, something's wrong. Michael's been watching me, following me. H, are you sure? Harold, yes, and the truck, the brake line. It broke yesterday. I nearly crashed into a ravine. H, that's terrifying. Did you have it checked? Harold, I took photos before I brought it to the mechanic. The line didn't wear out. Someone cut it. H. Harold, you need to call the police. Harold. And tell them what, that I think my son is trying to kill me? They'll think I'm crazy. My hands went cold. Michael. This was about Michael. I scrolled faster. 1 month before Harold died. Harold. I found out about the oil. $15 million worth of mineral rights under the East Pasture. Michael knows. He's been talking to extraction companies behind my back. H. What are you going to do? Harold. I changed the will. Everything goes to the Montana Conservation Trust. Michael gets nothing. H. He'll fight it. Harold. Not if he doesn't know. I'm using a lawyer in Billings. No one here knows. H. Be careful. Harold, I am. Rachel agreed to help me document everything. She's a nurse. She has access to my medical records, my medications. She cares about me. She said she'd help gather proof. I scrolled to the most recent messages. 2 weeks before Harold died. Harold, Maggie, I'm worried about Rachel. Michael's forcing her to manage my pills now. I saw her crying yesterday, but she wouldn't tell me why. I think he's found out she was helping me. I think he's using something against her. Reply, can you get her away from him? Harold. She has Ethan. She can't leave. But I'm changing how I label my messages. If Michael ever sees my phone, he'll see your name as Maggie. He'll think I'm just texting my wife. He won't suspect you're helping me build evidence. And I'm saving your contact as H for helper. If he finds the phone after I'm gone, he'll think H was a mistress, not an informant. It'll protect you. My breath caught. It wasn't an affair. It was a code. Harold had been texting Rachel, but disguising it to protect her from Michael. The thread labeled H suddenly made sense. H wasn't Harold. H was the person Harold trusted to hold the evidence. And Harold had protected that person by making every message look like it was meant for me. Rachel wasn't Harold's lover. She was his witness. And she'd been trapped by Michael for 4 years. If you're still here, comment 6, so I know you're standing with me. And tell me if you had just realized your own son might have killed his father. What would you do next? Confront him. Go to the police or stay quiet and gather proof before we continue. Please note the next part includes dramatized elements for storytelling impact. Some details may not fully reflect real life. If this direction isn't for you, this is your moment to step away. I scrolled to the oldest messages 4 years back. October, a month before Harold passed away, but the thread labeled H stretched even further. March 2020, the first attempt. March 15th, 2020, 2:47 p.m. Harold's message. I fell today. The ladder to the hayloft. The rung snapped. I could have died. Reply from H. Are you hurt? Should I come? Harold bruised ribs. But look at this. An attached photo showed a wooden ladder, rung split cleanly, not splintered from age, but sawed nearly through, hidden on the underside. Someone cut it. Michael was here yesterday, said he'd check the barn. I didn't think anything of it. H. You need to call the police. Harold. And tell them what my son tried to kill me with no proof. He'll say I'm delusional. He's been planting that seed with everyone for months. H. Then we document everything, every incident, every threat. I'll help you. I stared at the screen. H wasn't a lover. H was a co-conspirator in Harold's desperate attempt to stay alive. June 8th, 2020, 7:33 p.m. Harold, I'm in the ER food poisoning. Rachel made mushroom soup for dinner. I got violently ill an hour later. H, what kind of mushrooms? Harold, she said they were morels from the North Pasture, but I've foraged those woods for 40 years. There are no morels there. Only false morels and green-spored parasols, both toxic. H, did you keep a sample? Harold, I took a photo before I threw up. The attached image showed pale mushrooms with greenish gills. Rachel said Michael gave her the mushrooms, said they were safe. She was crying when she served me. I think Michael's forcing her to do this. H, this is the second time. You need to get out. Harold, I can't leave the ranch. Not now. Michael knows about the oil survey. If I leave, he'll contest the will and take everything. July 15th, 2020. Harold, Michael is forcing Rachel to manage my pills now. Says I'm forgetting doses, but I'm not. Rachel looked terrified when he told her. I I saw her crying in the kitchen yesterday, but she won't talk to me. I think Michael found out she was helping me. I think he has something on her, some hold over her. I'm afraid for her. September 14th, 2020, 11:47 p.m. Harold's last message. I don't have much time. My heart's racing. Vision blurry. Rachel's been giving me my pills for 2 months now. Michael insists on it, watches her do it. But I've been keeping the old bottles. The pills don't match. What do you mean? Harold, I think Michael is making her give me something else. Something that builds up slowly. Makes it look like a heart attack. She's not doing this willingly. I see the fear in her eyes. But she can't refuse him. I'm calling 911. Harold, no. If anything happens, give this phone to Maggie. Tell her Michael did it. Tell her Rachel was forced. Tell her about the will. Tell her I'm sorry. And tell her to protect Rachel and Ethan. They're victims too. That was the last message Harold ever sent. I sat frozen tea cold in my hand. The pieces fell into place. Harold had discovered a multi-million-dollar oil deposit beneath the ranch. He'd changed his will 2 weeks before he died, leaving everything to a conservation trust, cutting Michael out entirely. Michael had 2 weeks to stop him. And he'd used Rachel, threatened her, controlled her, forced her to administer the poison. Harold knew. He'd known Rachel was trapped. That's why his last words were to protect her. My blood ran cold. Rachel wasn't Michael's accomplice by choice. She was his hostage. And she'd been living in terror for 4 years, taking Michael's money not as blackmail, but as the price of survival. The romantic messages, the secret meetings, they were never about love. They were about Harold trying to save himself while protecting a young woman who'd become collateral damage in his son's greed. And in the end, neither of them survived. But I would make sure their truth did. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. I sat in Harold's office until the sky turned gray, reading and rereading messages until my eyes burned. By dawn, I understood. H wasn't Harold. Harold had been writing to H. Every message I'd read, every confession, every fear, every piece of evidence had been Harold reaching out to someone he trusted. Someone he'd called Maggie, sometimes maybe by accident, maybe as a code name. Someone who'd kept these messages, who'd tried to protect him, who'd failed. 8 o'clock Wednesday morning. I stood in the kitchen exhausted, staring at the coffee pot without seeing it. My phone rang. Michael's name lit up the screen. My hand froze halfway to the counter. Could I do this? Could I talk to him knowing what I knew? The phone kept ringing. I picked up. Good morning, son. Hey, Mom, just calling to check on you. His voice was warm, concerned, loving. This man had ended his father's life. I'm fine, sweetheart, just making breakfast. Good, listen, I was thinking Ethan and I might swing by today. He's been asking about the horses. Panic shot through me. Not yet, I wasn't ready. Couldn't pretend everything was normal with Ethan there, with Michael sitting in Harold's chair, drinking coffee in the kitchen, where Harold had eaten his last meal. Oh, honey, I actually have plans today. Silence on the other end. Then, plans. Mom, you never have plans on Wednesdays. My stomach dropped. He tracked my schedule, knew my routines. Of course he did. He'd needed to know when I'd be gone, when Harold would be alone, when opportunities would arise. Well, today I do. I kept my voice light. Martha Green invited me over. The silence stretched longer this time. Martha Green. His tone had changed. Careful now. Dad's friend Martha. Yes, you remember her. I haven't heard that name in years. Something sharp underneath the words. Didn't realize you two still talked. We don't. Not often. But she called yesterday and... What did she want? Too fast, too interested. Just to catch up, she's lonely since her husband passed. He didn't believe me. I could hear it. Well, don't let us interrupt. Maybe we'll come by tomorrow instead. That would be wonderful. Love you, Mom. Love you too. The lie tasted like ash. I ended the call and set the phone down. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the counter. What had I just done? I'd told Michael I was visiting Martha. Martha, who apparently Harold had mentioned in messages I'd barely registered last night. I pulled out the backup phone, scrolling frantically. There 2 years ago. Michael warned her to stay away, said I was putting ideas in her head. Ideas about what about him, about the accidents. Martha was the only one who believed something was wrong. Martha had known or suspected, and Michael had isolated her, cut her off from Harold, from me, and now I just told him I was going to see her. I stared at my phone. Martha Green. I hadn't spoken to her since Harold's funeral 4 years ago. Michael had discouraged it, said she was getting forgetful, that visiting her would just upset us both. I'd believed him. I'd believed everything. My finger hovered over her contact, still saved, still there after all these years. I pressed call. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice older but strong. Hello. Martha, it's Maggie. Maggie Sullivan. A sharp intake of breath. Maggie, is that really you? Her voice cracked with emotion. Not surprise, something else. Relief, maybe, or validation. Yes, it's me. I was wondering if I could come visit today. There's something I need to talk to you about. Silence, then quietly, almost like a prayer. I've been waiting for your call for so long. Martha opened the door before I could knock. Come in, quickly. We shouldn't be seen together. She pulled me into a dim living room, curtains drawn tight. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, but the house felt like evening. The scent of lavender and dust hung in the air. Martha looked older than I remembered. Her hands trembled as she gestured to the floral couch. I should have come forward years ago, she said, voice breaking. About Michael, about what he did to Harold. My blood went cold. You knew? Harold told me everything after the ladder collapsed. He was terrified. He said Michael was trying to kill him. She walked to the window, peered through the curtain. Harold showed me the photo of the sawed ladder rung, the mushroom Rachel served him. He kept records of everything, dates, times, photos, voice memos. He sent copies to multiple people. Insurance, he called it, in case something happened. Why didn't you go to the police? Martha's face crumpled. Harold begged me not to. He said there was no proof, just suspicions. A cut ladder could be wear. Poisonous mushrooms could be an accident. And Michael had already started telling people Harold was losing his mind. She returned to the couch, pulled out a folder from beneath the cushion. After the ladder incident, Michael came here. Sat where you're sitting. He said if I kept feeding paranoid delusions to his father, he'd have me evaluated for dementia and make sure I never saw Harold again. He threatened you. Yes, and it worked. Harold stopped visiting. He only called late at night, whispering, afraid Michael was listening. Martha opened the folder. Inside were dozens of pages, printed text messages, photos, handwritten notes in Harold's shaky script. Each entry was dated and numbered. Harold was methodical, Martha said. He documented everything and sent copies to me, to Rachel, to his lawyer in Billings. He said if anything happened, we'd have proof. Why didn't Rachel come forward? Martha's expression darkened. Because Rachel wasn't helping Harold out of loyalty alone. After Harold died, Michael started paying her $20,000 a month for 4 years. Blackmail. That's what I thought at first. But then I talked to Rachel 6 months ago. She was terrified, Maggie. She said Michael had forced her to give Harold the poisoned pills. He'd threatened to report her for a medication error from years ago. She'd lose her nursing license, lose custody of Ethan. After Harold died, Michael told her if she ever came forward, he'd kill her and make it look like suicide. My stomach turned. So the money wasn't blackmail. No, it was hush money. Michael paid her to stay silent. She didn't demand it, he forced it on her, said it was compensation for her cooperation. But really, it was a leash. As long as she took the money, she was complicit. She couldn't go to the police without implicating herself. She was trapped. Yes, and she's been living in terror, taking Michael's money, not because she's greedy, but because she has no choice. She has a son to protect. Martha pulled out an old flip phone. Harold left me this. One voicemail. Listen. She pressed play. Harold's voice, weak and hoarse, filled the room. Martha, if you're listening to this, I'm gone. Michael did it. Whatever story he's telling, heart attack, natural causes, don't believe it. Tell Maggie I loved her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her Rachel has the evidence. Every attempt, every message. But be careful. Rachel's trapped. Michael's using her. If she hasn't come forward by now, it's because he still controls her. Protect her. She's a victim, not a criminal, and protect Ethan. The boy is innocent. The voicemail ended. Silence pressed down. Martha met my eyes. Harold knew Rachel was being coerced. He wanted you to know that. She's not a monster, Maggie. She's a mother trying to survive. Dr. James Porter, our family doctor for 30 years. I called him Wednesday night. I need to talk about Harold's death. The silence stretched too long. 11 o'clock Thursday morning. His office. He sat across from me, hands folded on the desk, unable to meet my eyes. I know Michael murdered Harold. Porter's face went pale. His jaw worked, but no sound came out. I need Harold's medical records. Those are confidential. James, he was murdered. Porter's shoulders sagged. I suspected. He pulled a thick file from his drawer. I've carried this guilt for 4 years. He opened to the first section, medical notes in careful handwriting. March 15th, 2020. Patient presented to ER following fall from ladder. 12-foot drop onto concrete surface. Porter's voice was clinical, now detached. Injuries: fractured ribs at T5 and T7, grade 2. Ankle sprain, multiple contusions. X-rays showed clean fracture patterns consistent with impact trauma. I leaned forward. Patient reported ladder failure during roof repair. Upon examination of his personal effects, I observed photographs on his phone showing the failed ladder rung. Porter pulled out a page, photocopies of Harold's photos. The break pattern was inconsistent with age-related wood failure. Showed evidence of tool marks, likely a saw, cutting through approximately 80% of the rung's cross-section. You saw proof it was sabotage. I saw suspicious evidence. But when I suggested filing a police report, Harold refused, said he couldn't accuse his son without being certain. Porter's voice dropped. And then Michael came to see me the next day. Michael. He brought documentation, medical evaluations from a psychiatrist in Billings, Dr. Raymond Chen, detailed reports claiming Harold had been exhibiting signs of paranoid delusions for months, accusations against family members, belief that people were trying to harm him. Porter pulled out a stapled packet. Michael said he'd been trying to get Harold help quietly, didn't want to embarrass him. The reports were convincing. Official letterhead diagnostic codes, everything. It was fake. Porter closed his eyes. I didn't know that then. Michael was so concerned, so earnest. He said Harold had been refusing psychiatric treatment, that these accidents might be Harold's way of seeking attention or validating his delusions. It made a terrible kind of sense. So you dismissed Harold's concerns. I documented them, but I also added notes about possible cognitive decline. His hands clenched into fists. I called Dr. Chen's office 6 months ago. The number was disconnected. I contacted the Montana Board of Medical Examiners. No Dr. Raymond Chen has ever been licensed in this state. My stomach turned. Michael faked an entire psychiatric evaluation. Yes, and I believed it. Porter turned pages. June 2020. Patient admitted with acute gastroenteritis. Laboratory analysis identified toxic alkaloids consistent with chlorophyllum molybdites, species false parasol mushroom. Rachel picked those mushrooms. Patient informed me his daughter-in-law had collected and prepared them, but Harold pulled me aside privately, said Michael had given the mushrooms to Rachel, told her they were safe. Harold believed Rachel didn't know they were poisonous. Porter turned to September 2020. The final section. September 15th. Patient pronounced dead at 0847 hours. Presented with acute cardiac arrest. His voice cracked. 3 days later, I came across a case study on digoxin toxicity. The symptom progression matched perfectly. Why didn't you test for it? You'd already authorized cremation. But here's what haunts me. I reviewed Harold's pharmacy records. Michael purchased digoxin from a veterinary supplier in July, said it was for a ranch dog with heart problems. There's no record of any dog. And in August, Michael insisted Rachel manage Harold's daily medications. Harold's appointment notes show Rachel objected, said Harold was perfectly capable. But Michael overruled her. Michael forced Rachel to give Harold the poison. Yes, she was the delivery system, but Michael was the source. Porter opened forms already half completed. I'll request exhumation today. Digoxin can be detected in bone even 4 years later. A week while Michael walked free. But now I had proof Michael hadn't just murdered Harold. He'd weaponized Rachel to do it. I needed to see the ladder. the one Harold had photographed 4 years ago. 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon. I drove straight from Porter's office to the ranch, bypassing the house, heading for the barn. The old wooden extension ladder leaned against the back wall where it had been since Harold's fall. Dust and cobwebs covered it. 4 years. I hadn't touched it in 4 years. Too painful. Now I walked toward it with purpose. I pulled it down carefully, laid it across 2 sawhorses. My hands found the rung that had broken third from the top. I ran my fingers along the splintered wood. I wasn't a carpenter, didn't have expertise, but even I could see it. The rung hadn't snapped. It had been sawed, cut nearly through from the underside, leaving just a thin shell of wood that would break under weight. A deliberate sabotage partially hidden where the rung fit into the side rails. I took photos, multiple angles, close-ups showing the saw marks. Grandma. I jumped, nearly dropping my phone. Ethan stood in the barn doorway, backlit by afternoon sun. My grandson. 13 now. Tall and lean and heartbreakingly similar to Harold at that age. What are you doing with Grandpa's ladder? My heart hammered. Just remembering him, sweetheart. What are you doing here? Dad dropped me off. He's at the bank in town. Michael was here on the property. Why did he drop you off? He said he had to check something in the house. Told me to wait outside, but I saw your car and thought, the house? The computer? The backup files? The USB drive hidden in Harold's law book? Ethan. I stood too quickly, head spinning. Go inside, right now. Find something to do in the kitchen. Don't go near Grandpa's office. Understand? But, please. The confusion on his face cut me, but I couldn't explain. Couldn't tell him his father was a murderer. Not here, not now. He left, shoulders hunched. I took 3 more photos of the ladder, then ran for the house. My lungs burned, my vision blurred at the edges. Michael's truck sat parked at the front door, not in the usual spot, right at the entrance, engine still ticking with heat. I hit the porch steps as the front door opened. Michael stepped out of Harold's office. In his hand, small, black, unmistakable, was my USB drive. He looked up, saw me, and smiled. That perfect son smile. The one that had fooled me for years. The one that had made everyone believe he was grieving. Devoted. Loving. Mom, he held up the drive. What's this old thing doing in Dad's law book? My mouth went dry, words died in my throat. He walked closer, still smiling. I was looking for his copy of the property deed. Thought maybe it was with his legal books, and I found this. He turned it over in his fingers. A USB drive. Hidden, in a hollowed-out book. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Why would someone hide a USB drive, Mom? His voice stayed light, conversational, but his eyes had changed. Cold now, calculating. What would be on it that needs hiding? I don't know what that is. Don't you... He stepped closer. We were 3 feet apart. Because it's labeled Rachel Phone Backup, and it's dated from this week. Another step, which is strange, because Rachel hasn't lost her phone recently, has she? My back hit the porch railing. Unless, his smile widened, unless someone copied her phone without her knowing, someone who found something interesting, something worth hiding in Dad's old office. He knew I knew. Where's the original? His voice dropped. Mom, where's Rachel's actual phone? Behind him, through the screen door, I could see Ethan in the kitchen, pouring milk, unaware that his father and grandmother were standing on a knife's edge. I returned it. My voice came out steady somehow. Days ago. But you kept the backup. He held up the drive again. What's on here, Mom? What did you find? Everything. Every message. Every piece of evidence. Harold's fear. Michael's 3 attempts. The investigation. All of it. And now Michael held it in his hand. Michael's eyes moved from the USB to my face. I saw the moment he understood. His smile didn't fade. That's when I knew how dangerous he was. We stood in Harold's office. Through the door, I could hear the television in the living room, Ethan watching cartoons, unaware. Michael turned the USB between his fingers. Tax records. That's what I said. What year? I don't remember. He walked toward Harold's desk. Mind if I check? Actually, I do mind. This is my house now. The tension exploded between us like glass breaking. Michael studied my face. You've been crying. Your eyes are red. I miss your father. After 4 years, he set the USB on the desk. Martha Green called me today. My blood froze. She said you visited her this morning. Strange, because yesterday you told me you had plans, but then canceled. His head tilted. Did you mix up the days, Mom? Caught in a lie. I must have. Or are you investigating something? We stared at each other across Harold's desk. Rachel mentioned she lost her phone here. She found it. Behind the bread box. Funny, she never leaves her phone in the kitchen. He stepped closer. What did you read, Mom? My heart hammered. On Rachel's phone. What did you read? I didn't. Don't lie to me. Grandma. Ethan's voice from the living room. Can I have a snack? The interruption broke the moment. Of course, sweetheart. Michael and I remained locked in our stare. We should discuss this privately, he said quietly. There's nothing to discuss. He picked up the USB, slipped it into his pocket. I'll keep this, for safekeeping. He walked past me toward the door, then turned back. Mom, I loved Dad. Whatever you think, you know you're wrong. His voice stayed calm, reasonable. Rachel's phone has nothing important on it, and this USB just old files. Nothing that matters. His voice dropped lower. Let's keep it that way. A clear threat wrapped in concern. Come on, Ethan, he called. We're leaving. But I just got here. Now. I heard Ethan's confused footsteps. The front door opening. Michael's hand on his son's shoulder guiding him out. I followed to the porch, watched them climb into the truck. Ethan looked back at me through the window, face full of questions. Michael started the engine, met my eyes through the windshield one last time. Then they were gone. Dust trailing down the driveway like smoke. I stood on that porch until I couldn't see them anymore. Then I went inside, back to Harold's office, sat at his desk where the USB had been. I had nothing. The phone was returned to Rachel. The USB was in Michael's pocket. The will was still with Martha, but without the other evidence, it was just an old man changing his mind. The medical records from Porter were suspicions, not proof. All I had left were memories, screenshots in my mind, words I'd read on a screen, and a murderer who knew I suspected him. A murderer who had just driven away with my grandson. Friday morning, 9 o'clock. A sheriff's car pulled into my driveway. Detective Sarah Parker, mid-40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. I'd called her office the night before. I have evidence my son murdered my husband 4 years ago. Now she sat across from my kitchen table, notepad open. Mrs. Sullivan, I need you to walk me through this carefully. I slid Dr. Porter's thick medical file across the table. Start with this. Parker opened it. Her eyes scanned the pages. Harold's ER visits, the latter incident photos, the mushroom poisoning lab results, Porter's handwritten notes flagging suspicious patterns. She looked up. Dr. Porter documented all of this. Yes, and he kept it for 4 years because he suspected but couldn't prove it. Parker flipped to the psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Raymond Chen. Fake. Michael forged it. Porter verified no Dr. Chen is licensed in Montana. Michael used that fake diagnosis to gaslight everyone into thinking Harold was paranoid. Parker's jaw tightened. She pulled out her phone, took photos of several pages. Mrs. Sullivan, these records carry weight. If what you're telling me about Michael falsifying psychiatric documents is true, we'll redirect the investigation immediately. You believe me. She met my eyes. I received an anonymous tip 3 days ago accusing you of killing Harold for life insurance money. The tip included specific details, your access to his medication financial records, even an alleged affair to establish motive. My stomach dropped. Michael sent that. I suspected as much. The details were too precise, too convenient, but I had to investigate. Parker tapped the medical file. This changes everything. If Michael systematically poisoned his father, falsified medical records, and is now trying to frame you, we're dealing with a sophisticated criminal. He's been planning this for years. Then we need more than 4-year-old medical records and suspicions. We need direct evidence, a confession. What if I can get one from Michael? From Rachel, Harold's daughter-in-law. She was there. She administered the poisoned medication. She has evidence, text messages, photos, records of payments. Parker leaned back. Rachel Sullivan is your son's wife. She's also his victim. Michael coerced her using threats against her nursing license and custody of her son. She's been blackmailing Michael for 4 years to protect herself, but she has proof of everything. You've seen this evidence. I have Harold's phone backup. It's all documented. Does Michael know you have it? He took a USB drive with the backup, but he doesn't know Rachel still has the original phone. Parker studied me. If Rachel's willing to cooperate, this could work, but approaching her is dangerous. If Michael suspects, he already suspects. That's why he filed that anonymous tip against me. Which is why you can't meet her alone. And then wire me. Come with me. If she confesses on tape, you'll have everything. Parker considered. Montana's a 2-party consent state. She'd have to agree to be recorded. She will. She's terrified. She wants out. How do you know? I showed Parker my phone. Rachel's text from that morning. I can't do this anymore. Meet me at the North Meadow cabin 3 p.m. Come alone. I'll explain everything. Parker read it twice. This could be a setup, or our only chance to get justice for Harold. Parker closed the medical file. All right, but we do this my way. You wear a wire. My team stays a quarter mile out. If anything feels wrong, you say Harold twice in a sentence. We come in immediately. Agreed. And Mrs. Sullivan. If this goes bad, if Michael shows up instead of Rachel, I know, but I have to try. Parker nodded slowly. Then let's get you wired. Saturday, 1 p.m. My phone buzzed. Rachel, I can't do this anymore. Meet me at the North Meadow cabin 3 p.m. Come alone. I'll explain everything. My hands shook. Was this a confession or a trap? I called Detective Parker. Rachel just texted me. Don't go. I have to. This might be our only chance. At 2:30 p.m., Parker's technician clipped a small recorder inside my shirt. 30-foot range. Will be a quarter mile away. Parker met my eyes. If anything feels wrong, say Harold twice. Understood. I drove to North Meadow, 30 minutes through back roads. As I turned onto the cabin access road, I noticed a dark sedan, 2 cars back. Same one I'd seen near my house that morning. My pulse quickened. Was someone following me? The cabin sat hidden by pines. Rachel's SUV was there. I parked and walked to the door. Rachel opened it, face swollen from crying. Thank God you came. Are you alone? Yes, please come inside. The cabin was cold, dusty. Rachel locked the door. Are you recording this? She asked. Yes. Is that okay? She nodded. I need you to hear the truth. I sat, then talk. Rachel collapsed onto the couch. 4 years ago, Harold came to me. He said Michael was trying to kill him. He showed me the ladder, the mushrooms. He was terrified. I agreed to help him document everything because I cared about him. He was kind to me, like a real father. Why didn't you go to the police? Because Michael found out I was helping Harold. He came to me with a file documentation of a medication error I made 3 years ago at the hospital. A patient nearly died. The case was dismissed, but Michael kept records. He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd report me to the medical board. I'd lose my license, lose custody of Ethan. So Michael forced you to poison Harold. Tears streamed down her face. He gave me the pills, told me they were Harold's heart medication, made me give them to Harold every morning while he watched. I didn't know what they were at first, but Harold knew. He kept the old bottles. He told me the pills didn't match. Why didn't you stop? Michael said if I refused, Ethan would have an accident, just like Harold. I was terrified. And after Harold died, Rachel's voice broke. Michael started paying me $20,000 a month. He called it compensation for my cooperation. But it wasn't a gift. It was a leash. He said as long as I took the money, I was complicit. If I went to the police, I'd go to prison too. You were trapped. Yes, and before you came here, I checked my purse. She pulled out a small black device. Michael put a GPS tracker in my bag. He's been following me. He knows I'm here. He knows you're here. My blood froze. Rachel, we need to leave. Too late, a voice said from the door. Michael stood in the doorway, gun in hand. Well, he said, smiling, isn't this touching, my mother and my wife conspiring against me? Rachel screamed. I froze. Michael stepped inside. Did you really think I wouldn't track you, Rachel? I've been watching you for months. I knew you'd crack eventually. He raised the gun. You see, Mom Rachel here isn't the victim she's pretending to be. She took my money willingly, nearly $1 million over 4 years. Tell Mom how you bought that house in Bozeman, Rachel, the one under your sister's name. Rachel's face went white. That's right, Michael continued. I know about it. You're not a hostage. You're an accomplice. And now you're both liabilities. He aimed the gun at Rachel. Neither of you is leaving this cabin. My son pointed a gun at me. All I could think, I don't know this man. Never did. Michael closed the cabin door. The gun never wavered. He wasn't shouting. He was calm. Put the gun down, Michael. I don't think so, Mom. I've been planning this conversation for a long time. Rachel sobbed. Michael, please. Shh. 4 years of payments, Rachel. Nearly $1 million. I gave you a way out. You chose to stay and take the money. He turned to me. Dad was 73. He was going to give away $15 million in oil rights to strangers, environmental activists who never worked this land. So you killed him. I helped him leave early. His tone was conversational. Digoxin in his morning coffee, plant-based cardiac glycoside, 2 months of gradual buildup, looks like natural heart failure. I gave Rachel the pills, made sure she delivered them every morning. You forced me, Rachel screamed. Michael ignored her. Dad loved you more than me. Every decision was about you, what Maggie thinks, what Maggie wants. That's not true. I graduated top of my law class. He shook my hand. You published a poetry book, he threw a party. I took over the ranch finances, he audited me monthly. You asked for anything, he gave it. His voice stayed level. He changed his will 2 weeks before he died. Didn't tell me, just cut me out. So I accelerated his timeline. You murdered your father for money. I secured my son's inheritance. That oil money should go to Ethan, to our family. Dad was being sentimental and foolish. I made a practical correction. He checked his watch. You and Rachel are liabilities. Once you're gone, the case closes. I framed you, Mom. Anonymous tip. Financial motive, alleged affair. Detective Parker's been investigating you all week. My blood froze. The police think you killed Dad. This will look like murder-suicide. You shoot Rachel, then yourself. The evidence supports it completely. He raised the gun toward Rachel. Michael, your son is outside. He paused. What? Ethan followed you. He heard everything. His calm cracked. You're lying. A voice from outside, shaking but clear. Dad, I recorded everything on my phone. Michael spun toward the window. Through the glass, Ethan stood outside, phone held up recording. His face pale, tears streaming, but the phone steady. Michael's mask shattered. Ethan, no. You killed Grandpa. You poisoned him. Son, you don't understand the context. You're pointing a gun at Grandma. The gun wavered. His eyes darted wildly between me, Rachel, and the window where his son witnessed everything. I stepped forward. Michael, it's over. Your son knows. The police know. Put it down. I planned everything, every detail. You lost when you started explaining. His breathing quickened. The strategist evaporated. Just panic remained. Drop the weapon. Parker's team stormed in. Michael's gun clattered down. He dropped to his knees. It was supposed to work, he whispered. Parker handcuffed him. Michael Sullivan, you're under arrest for the murder of Harold Sullivan. You have the right to remain silent, which you should have exercised 15 minutes ago. Officers led Michael out. As he passed the window, he looked at Ethan, who still held the phone, recording tears streaming. Son, I did this for you, for your future. Ethan lowered the phone slowly. No, Dad, you didn't. Only after Michael was secured in the patrol car did Parker wave Ethan inside. The boy ran to me. I held him as he shook with sobs. Rachel stood frozen as an officer took her arm. She looked back at me. I'm sorry, she mouthed. I nodded. There would be time to talk, time to heal. Judge Harrison read the verdict. Michael Sullivan, you are guilty of first-degree murder. I sentence you to life in prison without possibility of parole. Rachel's plea deal, 15 years for accomplice under coercion. The exhumation confirmed digoxin poisoning. Harold's will validated. The ranch went to the Montana Conservation Trust. Michael got nothing. Ethan lived with me now. We were healing. Some nights I heard him crying, but good days were outnumbering bad ones. Martha visited weekly. Parker became a friend. I found Harold's letter in his desk. Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I was weak when I should have been strong. I felt invisible. But I asked Rachel to help gather evidence because I saw Michael was using her. He had control over her, some medical secret from her past. I knew she was terrified. That's why I used the code. I called her Maggie in my messages, so if Michael saw my phone, he'd think I was texting you. I saved her contact as H for helper, hoping if Michael found the phone after I was gone, he'd think H was a mistress, not an informant. I was trying to protect her. Rachel is not a criminal. She's a victim. Michael weaponized her fear and forced her to help him kill me. Please, Maggie, protect her. Protect Ethan. They're innocent. I failed you. Failed Michael by not seeing his darkness sooner. But I never stopped loving you. Bitch. That afternoon, Ethan and I scattered Harold's ashes on the east meadow overlooking where the oil had been discovered. Do you still love Dad? Ethan asked. He's your father. That won't change. But he's a murderer. Both things are true. We can love someone and still know they were wrong. What happens to this place? The Conservation Trust takes over, protected forever. No oil rigs, just wilderness. Grandpa would like that. We watched the sunset paint the sky gold and red. The wind carried Harold's ashes across the meadow over the land 3 generations had worked. Michael had wanted to own it. Harold had wanted to protect it. I just wanted Ethan to remember what it taught us. Some legacies are worth dying for, some aren't worth killing for. In the end, love is the only inheritance that matters. Looking back at everything that happened, I see now how easily family drama stories can tear us apart when we stop truly seeing each other. Harold felt invisible. I was too busy with routines to notice. Michael felt unloved. We were too focused on the farm to ask what he needed. These are the grandma stories I wish I didn't have to tell. Stories of murder and betrayal, of a family destroyed by silence and greed. But maybe someone out there needs to hear this. Don't be like me. Don't let your husband feel invisible. Don't assume your children know you love them. Don't wait until it's too late to have the hard conversations. I learned the hardest way possible that family drama stories don't start with violence. They start with small neglects, unspoken resentments, feelings pushed down until they rot into something toxic. If Harold had told me he felt invisible, maybe I could have changed. If Michael had told us he felt inadequate, maybe we could have helped him before greed consumed him. If Rachel had come to me when Michael first threatened her, maybe Harold would still be alive. The lessons I carry now. Communication isn't optional in families, it's survival. Love isn't enough if you don't show it every single day. Greed will destroy everything you build. And secrets always come to light, usually in the most devastating way possible. As grandma stories go, mine is tragic. But I'm sharing it so yours doesn't have to be. My advice to you, talk to your family. Really talk. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Do you feel valued? Are you happy? Is there something you're afraid to tell me? Don't assume everything is fine just because it looks fine on the surface. That's what I did, and it cost me everything. By God's grace, I still have Ethan. We're rebuilding, learning to be a family again the right way, with honesty, with open hearts. But I'll never get Harold back. I'll never get my son back. Those losses are permanent. These family drama stories and grandma stories I've shared, they're my warning to you. Don't let silence destroy what you love. Don't let greed poison your legacy. Protect your family by being present, by listening, by loving loudly enough that no one ever has to wonder where they stand. That's the inheritance that truly matters. A final note. This content contains dramatized storytelling elements for educational purposes. Some details are fictionalized, but the lessons and messages are entirely valuable. If this style doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. Please feel free to seek content that better suits your needs.